Hello, I'm Kimberly,
I'm JP.
and this is That
This
Vegan
is That
Morning
Vegan
Show.
Morning Show. Mhm.
We thought we'd give it a try. Welcome,
Yeah.
everyone. Good morning. As
Yeah.
you can see, Jen is not here today. She is out and about, but she'll be back next weekend. So don't next week. So don't worry. JP, my husband, has agreed to join me today, so I'm not doing this alone. Welcome, JP. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. Very honored to be here. Mhm.
So this weekend, Jen and I always like to start off kind of like, hey, how was your weekend? But I know how your weekend was because I was there. But as usual, we went to the farm on Saturday to get some veggies, and that's like our favorite place, right? You
Oh
get,
yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. Nothing
I-
nothing better than being on that farm.
yeah, I know. There's
Yeah.
like just magic as soon as you like step out onto the land.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. And like the people there are so great. And it's just, I love when we get out of the car and I can just take a few seconds and just like breathe in that air and just pause for a moment.
Yeah, and it never gets old, no matter how many times we've been there.
That's
It's
true. Yeah.
just
By the way, we're talking
unlike it.
about ethos for, go ahead. What?
Oh, I just said it's just unlike any other place around here, or any other place we go.
Yeah. That's completely true. Yeah. Well, we're talking about Ethos Farm in Long Valley, New Jersey. Ethos Farm to Health. We've got the link and put it in the chat. There we go. But yeah, so uh, one of the fun things yesterday is we were sitting on the couch watching TV and we saw a commercial for a cruise line. And like it was, I am baffled by these essentially like floating cities that cruise lines are these days. And I'm watching this commercial and looking at how ridiculous it all is. These giant slides and like all the different buffet options and the like 47 levels. And of course, I'm exaggerating. They're not that tall, but uh, and I
You're probably
thought,
not far off
right.
at this point. 47, no, but 20? I don't know. Seems
Yeah.
like it could be much. Yeah.
Yeah. They are these huge hunkin' ships out there. And so I'm quiet, right? I have my phone in my hand and I decide to start looking up like how are cruises bad for the environment?
I wonder if the
And
answer was ever going to be yes to that question.
so I then start reading to you what all of the beauty that our cruises and the garbage they're dumping and the noise pollution that they create and how they affect marine life and potential to destroy the bottoms of the ocean and the coral reefs and whatever. And without saying a word, you turn your phone to me, and what do you show me?
A picture of Debbie Downer.
That's right. Wah,
Wah,
wah.
wah. Yeah.
And, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
I
feel
mean,
like go ahead.
yeah. I mean, it. Everything you said was right. So like, I was more of my way of, I don't know, just sort of um, making the point that like you can everything is bad. Like so many things, if you look into them enough, you're probably going to find something negative to how it impacts the world,
Yeah, that's true.
unfortunately. Yeah.
Right. And I find that this happens a lot, right? And I even said this to you last night. It's like, oh, look at this fun thing that I'm enjoying. And I am like, oh, yeah. You're having a good time, but are the people who work there or are the animals that are being used in this environment having a good time? It's just
Right.
constant, like,
Yeah, and that's one of the I still, because I haven't been vegan or vegetarian nearly as long as you have, so I still kind of remember the beginnings of coming into this and just being hit with just bad news after bad news after bad news of just like, oh, I shouldn't do that anymore, or I shouldn't do that anymore, because when you look into everything, you're just like, wow, it's amazing how many negative impacts a lot of the things we do have.
yeah, yeah. Um, and so, yeah, there's definitely that, and there can be this kind of feeling of overwhelm where it's like everything is so bad. What's even the point?
Hmm.
But if we can look at veganism from the other side, all the things that we get to do, all the things, the ways that we can experience life from that side, I feel like that is a way to see it from like a where it becomes something really beautiful and we can kind of not forget about the bad stuff, but it's what helps us kind of get through knowing about the bad stuff or experiencing these like super sad things, which kind of takes us right into our topic today of like how do we take care of ourselves and protect our hearts, being compassionate people and looking around at the world and seeing just how much destruction and cruelty and just awfulness we kind of as humans create in the world and put out there.
Yeah, it's a tough question because it's a seeming never ending, you know, work really.
Mhm.
Um, it's all day, every day. You can see it on, the sort of biggest of stages with very obvious things of human suffering or animal suffering, and but even down to the just tiniest little things, every single day. Um, it can take a toll for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that coming at it from that perspective that I just mentioned of trying to see the beauty in what we're able to do, um, and really just kind of feeling more connected to nature. I feel like, I've always kind of felt more at home in the woods or by the beach, just wherever there's a lot of just natural world around me.
Mhm.
But it also felt like I couldn't quite be there. But then once I went vegan, it felt much more like there was a connection, a real connection. And I think because I had taken out so much of my contribution to the destruction of our natural environment and to the other sentient beings who live within it, and that allowed me to open up and be more connected, which then helps me feel less sad when I'm faced with the really hard stuff.
Yeah, I think I feel that way too. And I don't know if I'd really thought about that until you just mentioned it now. But even yesterday, for people watching, there's a park that's not far from where we live, and it's beautiful. It's half of it is just kind of a regular standard park, big field, people play soccer and all that stuff. But then there's a trail and it kind of goes off into the woods, and it's magical in there. Like you get to walk basically through the forest, and there's a river and there's wildlife. And yesterday there was a deer with her baby, and they were walking and kind of just babies jumping along through it's just amazing. Um, and I think I get more of a sense now that like being vegan, instead of feeling like I'm a person in their space or whatever, I almost feel like I'm one of them. If that feels, that I mean, obviously I'm not a deer, but but like I almost feel like I'm more welcome there, than
Mm,
before.
yeah.
I feel like animals can sense that stuff, and Um, that's so yeah, I think I feel much more at home in nature now too than I would have in the past.
Yeah. I think you're right because, animals, I think kind of like children maybe even, they do feel the world around them differently,
Mhm.
and they are more tuned into the energy around them. And so I think that animals can tell when they encounter a human, wild animals encounter a human, or maybe even, when we're at sanctuaries and we're interacting with animals who've been rescued from animal agriculture and, labs and stuff. I think they can feel a difference in the energy between those of us who are vegan showing up in those spaces and people who aren't.
Yeah, I definitely get that sense. Or at least I like to think that anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, me too. Oh, how amazing was it when that blue heron like came soaring in and then landed along the river
Oh, I
yesterday?
know. Still amazing, and it's still. I told you the story yesterday, but so that river is the same river that if you've ever been in North Jersey to like Waterloo Village and things like that. There's a river that goes through there, and it's a long river. And I remember when I was a kid seeing a heron along that river, and I was convinced I saw a dinosaur. And seeing one yesterday kind of brought me right back to that memory of
Hmm.
thinking I'm seeing a pterodactyl flying on the on the river. Yeah, it's pretty magical. Even as an adult, it's obviously I don't think I saw a dinosaur now, but
Right.
but so it's nice to bring me back to that memory.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about kind of this area that we drive by sometimes where animals who are victims of the animal agriculture industry are often held and then passed off, transported. Um, and sometimes we forget because it happens only at certain times. It's not always there. But it sometimes we'll forget. We've forgotten, like, oh, that's happening today, and we'll drive past, and you can hear sometimes the cows mooing or the pigs making noise, and sometimes they even have some of the animals outside of the space, so as you're driving by, you can see them. You and I have a very different approach to when we encounter this. For me, I always feel like in those moments, I have to bear witness that even though we're not stopping and engaging and we're just driving by, I feel like I have to have my window open. I have to hear their cries. I have to look and honor them is how it
Mhm.
feels for me, knowing that these animals are not far from having their lives taken from them. It does make me, I'm trying very hard not to get emotional now. It does make me very upset. And but going by, I still feel like I have to feel that for them.
Yeah.
And it can really, tank my day or make it very difficult for me to like kind of move from that. I really end up kind of having to stay in that space and figure out how to kind of heal my heart after that. Um, and then you have a different take. Can you talk about how you kind of approach that?
Yeah. So I guess I look at it in sort of I want to be around and functioning, to be able to do more good, and to continue to do work and things like that. And just like you, seeing things like that completely ruins, my day. I mean, it can even last, depending on what it is, it can go longer than a day. It can be a week,
Mhm.
or more. And I just find that I'm useless for myself and in turn then for anything positive I can bring to the world. if I keep putting all that stuff on myself. I totally understand where your point of view comes from, so it's not like I disagree with your take on it. I just
Mhm.
find for myself that maybe I put a lot more self protection on myself. I think, um,
Yeah.
just so that I can make it through and survive the world, because the world is just, even outside of animals, is tough. I think everybody can relate to that. It's not no matter your circumstances. I think everybody has their struggles, and yeah. So I think for me, it's like it's a protection instinct, and I also look at it like, I think when you come to veganism the first time, I think it's important to read about it, watch the movies that we've all watched, see those difficult things, because I think you need to have that background and know those things so that you can have conversations with people and understand why you're doing what you're doing. But I guess I always look at it as like, okay, I've done that now. I'm vegan. So I'm
Mhm.
already in. I'm
Mhm.
not going to keep doing that to myself. Like I know what's going on in the background, and that's why I do what I do. But and I struggle with this. I do, because it sort of makes me think like, am I being selfish by kind of not ignoring it but blocking it out? Um, but I ultimately come to the point where it's just like I can either do that and be a mess all the time, or just continue doing what I'm doing, knowing that I am I'm doing it for all the same reasons you are. I'm just protecting myself as much as I can.
Mhm. Yeah.
Uh,
I don't think that your approach is wrong. I think it makes a lot of sense, and I agree with you in that we need to kind of know how we can best serve ourselves and the animals. And yeah, if kind of not engaging, but knowing, like, as you drive by, you obviously know what's happening, but you're not making the point to look or to listen. I still feel like there's an acknowledgement that happens
mhm.
because you're not ignoring it. Like, you can't help but see the building that as you drive by,
Right.
you know? So so I don't feel like that's like a wrong approach or anything. I don't think either approach is better overall. I think it's kind of just knowing yourself and knowing where, you can have those protections and where it feels like you need to expose yourself. I've been Another thing that you do is that you don't follow a lot of accounts that end up showing kind of the graphic side of things.
Right.
And I have really taken that to heart because, like, and I'm really careful now, even when I'm on social media. I never look under the for you because I've done that before, and I have seen there are videos I have seen on even just Instagram where they have been so heartbreaking in the emotion from the animals that I can see, that I can still see those videos in my head.
Mhm.
And so I
That's
don't
actually what
I don't want that, you know? I
yeah.
want to be able to, choose what I'm looking at. Oh, good morning, Richard. Hey, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Richard.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you're here and you're watching, of course, let us know that you're here. Say good morning, say hello, and join the conversation. Let us know your thoughts on how you protect your heart and yourself while also still showing up as a vegan and being effective in your own version of activism. Um, yeah, so like I've made it a point now where I will scroll past if I feel like there's videos is about to hurt my heart. I will scroll past it because yeah, like those videos that I just mentioned, it's been more than a year since I saw them, and I
Yeah.
can see both of them so clearly in my head. I don't I still watch some documentaries when they come out. Like we went and we saw Crispiracy, and there was a little bit of most of it wasn't graphic, but there was a section where it was. Um, but and I feel like as a vegan activist that I kind of have to see those because then I can talk to people about them. Um, but it's hard. So like how else can we protect our hearts and still show up and be effective?
Right. Yeah, it's difficult. I do think that, like I said, when you're first coming to it, if you have any sort of curiosity about veganism, that unfortunately, I think it is important to maybe see some of that stuff, and because I think for a lot of us, we all do have those core memories that we see something and it sticks with us forever, and those are the things that ultimately bring us to veganism and probably keep us there, because that stuff does sort of just get tattooed onto your mind,
Mhm.
and it never goes away. But because of that, and that might be a sensitivity issue. So I'm sure lots of people are just more sensitive to things like that. It sticks with them longer, so it might not affect everybody the same way. But for you and I, certainly it is that way. And I almost look at scrolling social media as kind of like a risky behavior, because you do run the risk every day of seeing an animal video or something like that unfortunately now you're never going to forget. And
Mhm.
and so that's why I protect myself so much, because you know I do run such a high risk of it just staying there forever, and now all of a sudden I have a new bag I'm carrying, and I just can get weighed down to the point where you can't move anymore, and so I know what's going on, and honestly, as hard as you try, you're still going to see it anyway. So
Yeah.
just by, unless you just completely shut yourself off from the world, you're going to see things that are going to stick with you. So I just try to limit it as much as I can, so that I can keep moving, really.
Mhm.
um
Yeah.
because yeah, those are the things that when you close your eyes to go to sleep at night, you're still going to see a year later, 10 years later. The story
Mhm.
with me seeing the pig, um and I forget the was it Forks Over Knives? I forget the specific
I don't think
movie
so.
where they
Yeah, I
were
can't
removing the head.
remember. Yeah.
But yeah, that will never leave me, and that was the thing that really started that motion in my brain,
Mhm.
um and I'm glad that I have it, because it's sort of what keeps it fresh in your mind all the time. But I don't need 100 of those, basically.
Right.
you know
Yeah, and, when I saw those 2 videos and they happened very, very close to one another, and I was sad, and obviously, like I said, like, I can still see them in my head, so they've really stuck with me, and they made me very angry, and there was a fire lit. So there is, as much as it hurts, I think there is value in it. Like you said, it kind of can kick off even your vegan journey, seeing something like that. A lot of people, that is where it starts. When you go vegan, from the animal perspective, it really can be something. Like my vegetarian journey started because I read a story about a downed cow, and that's what started it. It was the horrors that are out there that really got me there. And what has kept me vegan, vegetarian and then vegan, is knowing that those horrors are real and that I don't want to partake in them.
yeah,
um yeah.
I mean, that's why they say that saying that we've heard a million times about, if slaughterhouses were made of glass, because I think it's difficult, to see stuff like that and not have it stick with you. And
Hmm.
you know, um, so it's something I struggle with a lot. Like, do I want to, like bear witness and give respect, or I don't know. I just feel like I'm more useful for veganism if I protect
Hmm.
myself a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Another thing I do, which I have adopted from Reverend Sarah Bowen, and her she mentions it in her book Sacred Send-Offs, but I feel like she's also talked about it during Compassion Consortium, is whenever you come across an animal who has died, so very often, where we live, uh, there are animals on the side of the road who have been hit by cars, and I anytime we go past one, I put my hand on my heart or I close my eyes and I wish them an auspicious next lifetime. And it feels like just taking a moment to honor who they were and their untimely demise feels like sending love out into the world, and I feel like that makes a difference too. Um, showing up as vegans from that perspective of love and respect also
Yeah.
helps us protect our hearts.
I'm trying to work on becoming a bit more like you that way, because I think I'm still very much like my brain immediately goes, nope, I didn't see that. Continue, and like
Yeah.
I don't even want to do what you do, because then I got to think about it, and
Mhm.
so that's something that I'm working on, trying to be able to acknowledge things a little bit more rather than just block it all out. It's just so hard, because that's an example of something like, I was talking about before, on a day-to-day level, like you can't avoid.
Mhm.
We got to drive places, and it's every day. So
Yeah.
what do you do in those situations to try and process those experiences properly?
Mhm. Yeah.
Uh, because my method is, it's just straight up denial of it. And I mean, not denial of it, but it's certainly not. I don't think it's the healthiest way to approach it, because so it's why it's something I'm working on. It's just, my immediate response has been to just, just don't look, and
Yeah.
um, so it's tough.
It is. It is. Yeah. So for those of you who maybe have just joined us, let us know in the comments, how are you protecting your heart as a vegan? How do you make sure that you can show up effectively and not just destroy yourself in the process? Um I think I think too, when you go vegan and you start to connect with the animals and you learn about them. Maybe you get a chance to visit, a farm sanctuary and get to actually interact with these animals. I I think it becomes very clear that animals have relationships and experiences, things like joy and sadness. You can see animals that grieve. And when you know that animals are capable of all of that, then when you see an animal who's been hurt, hit by a car, it's very easy then to also see the story, because you don't just see something that ran into the road, you see someone who now is missing from their family,
Right,
and are their families now grieving them in their own
right,
way, and it makes it harder to just kind of get on with it.
right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
that's exactly how I see it. I see it as somebody who, like a human family. Like, somebody got up that morning, left for work, and didn't come home, and now,
Yeah.
that family is without their family member forever. And it's heartbreaking. And that's, yeah, I absolutely put a story with it every time. It's hard not
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. Because it does come from that space of respecting animals for who they are.
Hmm.
And I think it's really important because, there's like, people think animals are stupid, or they don't have souls, or they're not equal to humans, but just because they can't do the same things we do. But the same
Right,
way that it would be ridiculous to think that we could swim underwater and like live underwater, and like we would make terrible whales. That doesn't make us
right,
awful humans. We're not
right,
meant to be swimming in the ocean for our lives. So why are we judging, how squirrels live because they're not, building homes in the same way that we build homes? It just
right.
this
The point should
idea,
be that
yeah.
And the point should be that they're building homes, which should be the
Right.
connecting thing. It's like, okay, we might do them differently, but we're doing the same thing. We have a lot of similarities.
Mhm.
We strive for comfort, safety, food, shelter, all the same
Yeah.
things. And I love when people have that, like, well, we're superior. It's like, do you ever give the consideration that maybe we're the opposite? Like, maybe
Right.
maybe some of them have a better understanding of the world and life than we do.
Mhm.
And I don't know. People, I would love more people to put more thought into those things.
Yeah,
Um,
me too.
because I think we were all, however it came to be, we're put here to coexist, and it can be done. You know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah,
So I guess well, we certainly don't have all the answers, and we are both just learning and trying to get through this life and be the best vegans that we are and show up for the animals and the planet and each other in the best way that we can. So, we embarked on this conversation knowing that maybe we wouldn't have a solid, like, here's what you can do to protect your heart and be a good vegan. Um, I think it comes down to what works best for you. Like, even between the two of us, we've been married for over 10 years and we have a lot of things in common, but we do approach some of these things a little bit differently, while still kind of having the same kind of reactions. So I don't know. I hope that this has meant something to someone, and that maybe if you're watching the replay and you have some ideas of how you keep yourself kind of okay, you protect your heart and then also, show up as a vegan and spread the message. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. Thanks, JP. This was
yeah.
really
Thank you.
nice. I appreciate that you got up early, which is hard for both of us, honestly.
Yeah.
But
Well, I'm
coming
glad,
here
I'm
and
glad I
doing
did
this is
too. It's been
great.
a great conversation. Yeah. So
Awesome.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, remember in the replay, if you're watching the replay, let us know and share your thoughts and your comments, and Jen or I will get back to you. All right. Thanks,
Yeah, and
everyone.
thank you,
Have a
Jen,
great day.
for yeah.
No, go
Thank you,
ahead.
Jen, for letting me sit in today.
Yeah, yeah, it was really fun to have you. It's got
Thanks.
it's got some ideas percolating for me separate from this.
Wow, awesome. All
Yep. All right. Well, thank you.
right. Yep. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.